AS Level Biology 9700, Paper 1, Variant 3, October, November 2025. And this is the third video on this paper, in which we will discuss from question number 27 to question number 40. So question number 27 is, a mutation occurred in this original DNA nucleotide sequence. After the mutation occurred, the new DNA nucleotide sequence coded for the amino acid ASP, LEU, glycine, and GLU. So the table shows the amino acids that are coded by each DNA triplet. So here you can see the sequence. So this is the sequence of these amino acids. Now what will happen after the mutation? After mutation, what will happen? The start of it has been deleted. When the T from TCC, the sequence shifts to the left. That is, the sequence will be changed. So first of all, I would like to write the original, then I will write the mutated. CTA, and then GAA, and then TCC, and then TCT, then CCC. So they are CTA, CTA. So it is ASP. Then GAA, G, we will go, it is leucine. Then TCC, T, TCC. So TCC is here, which is arginine. And then the fourth one is TCT, TCT. So this is again arginine. Then CCC. So this is glycine. So this is the original. After the mutation, that is the T was deleted, and due to the deletion of this, the muted nucleotides are formed in this way. You can see that there can CTA, the muted is CTA, which is ASP, and then GAA, it is leucine, and then CC, it will be shifted in this way. CCT. So CCT is glycine, and then CTC is CTC, and remaining behind only CC. So in this way, the correct option will be, first of all, we are going to read all of them. This is muted one. Deletion of one nucleotide. Yes, because T was deleted over here, due to which the new are formed in this way. Insertion of one nucleotide. No nucleotide has been inserted, or not a single or not two. So B or C are substitution. There is no substitution for here. Only it is deleted. So one is deleted, that is nucleotide. One nucleotide is deleted. So the option is, correct option is A. Next question, number 28 is, the photograph shows a longitudinal section of part of a plant cell. So you can see over here, they have labeled P, Q, and R. So P you can see side lignification is visible over here and clearly show the spiral or annular thickening or lignified pattern on its wall. So P is xylem. And Q, you can see clearly see the sieve, sieves over here. So long continuous tube running parallel to the xylem but lack thick lignified wall pattern. So closely with narrow dense cells next to it. So this is the phloem. And with the phloem, you can see this a cell with the nucleus, which is companion cell. So which row correctly identifies P is xylem, vessel element, Q is the phloem sieve tube, and R is so C is the correct option. Question number 30 is there now. Question number 30 is, amino acids move from a phloem sieve tube element into a root cell. So we forgot to do the question number 29. I'm going with question number 29 first. Then we will solve question number 30. So question number 29 is, which statement about the pathway taken by a water molecule traveling from the soil to the xylem is correct? So here you can see that a water molecule in a cortex cell that takes the symplast pathway must enter the next cortex cell by passing between two adjacent phospholipid molecules in a cell surface membrane. So it is incorrect. A water molecule in the symplast pathways move from cell to cell via plasmodesmata, cytoplasmic channels, not by constantly crossing the phospholipid bilayer of adjacent cell membrane. So this is incorrect statement. The next statement is also incorrect, as water molecules can pass into xylem vessels either through pits or through the cell wall of the xylem vessels elements by osmosis. Xylem vessel elements are dead, hollow tubes with no selectively permeable cell membrane. So because they lack a living protoplast, water does not enter them via osmosis. For the process of osmosis, cell membrane is compulsory. So it enters via mass flow or bulk flow. So this statement is also wrong. Then the statement C, a water molecule would pass into the cytoplasm of the endodermal cell if it is always takes the apoplast pathway all the way to the xylem. This is also incorrect. If a water molecule takes the apoplast pathway all the way, it moves through cell walls. However, once it reaches the endodermis, the waterproof Casparian strip will block the apoplast pathway, forcing the water into the cytoplasm of the endodermal cell. So it does not bypass this. Next is statement D. A water molecule that has left the endodermal cells can travel by either the apoplast pathway or symplast pathway. This is the correct option. So D is the answer. Now question number 30. Question number 30 is amino acids move from phloem sieve tube elements into root cells. So they have given us a table. What are the changes to the water potential and the volume of the liquid in the phloem sieve tube elements at the sink when this event is happening? So water potential in the phloem sieve tube element. First of all, and then the second column is volume of the liquid in the phloem sieve tube element will increase or decrease or become higher or lower. So here I would like to describe this question as you know the first of all the water potential and the volume of the liquid should be inside the phloem sieve tube elements at the sink during the sievage. So first of all, I would like to say how the unloading of solutes takes place. As amino acids are actively or passively uploaded from the sieve tube elements into the surrounding sink cells, the solute concentration inside the sieve tube element decreases. So then what changes can take place in the water potential? So a decrease in the solute concentration means there are fewer solute molecules to lower the free energy of water. So therefore the water potential inside the sieve tube elements become higher or will become less negative. Then the movement of the water will take place as because the water potential inside the sieve tube elements is not higher than that of the surrounding tissues. Water leaves the sieve tube elements by osmosis. Then the volume will change as water exits the sieve tube elements. The hydrostatic pressure drops and the volume of the liquid decreases. So water potential becomes higher and the volume of the liquid decreases. So A is the correct option as I have described the whole scenario. Now, question number 31, the table shows the comparison of blood pressure in the three main blood vessels during diastole. So vessel 1 will have the pressure low pressure and vessel 2 very high and vessel 3 will very high and high. So first of all, I would like to go with the vessel 1. You know that the veins like the pulmonary vein carry blood back to the heart under very low pressure as the pumping forces of the heart has dissipated through the capillary beds. So you can say the vessel 1 uh, is can be the pulmonary vein because it has to carry the blood uh, back to the heart. And then vessel 2, which can be the pulmonary artery, carries blood away from the right ventricle to the lungs, while its pressure is significantly lower than that of the aorta. So while its pressure so the pulmonary it will have the low pressure than the aorta. So the aorta will have the highest pressure, and below this aorta there will be the third one, that is pulmonary artery, because the pulmonary artery blood away from the right ventricle to the lungs. So it will have very low pressure. So according to this arrangement, the very low pressure will be in pulmonary vein, and the very high will be in the aorta, and third high, it will be pulmonary artery. So according to this, C is the correct option. Then question number 32 is there, and question number 32 is red blood cells may contain a molecule known as 2,3 by uh, phosphoglycerate. When 2,3 biphosphoglycerate binds to hemoglobin, a high partial pressure of oxygen is needed to bring about 50% saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen. Which statements about the effect of 2,3 biphosphoglycerate are correct? So 2,3-BPG in red blood cell causes the oxygen dissociation curve to shift to the right. Needing a higher partial pressure of oxygen to reach the same saturation level is the exact definition of a rightward shift on the oxygen dissociation curve. So this is the correct statement. So statement number 2 is the binding of 2,3-BPG to hemoglobin reduces the Bohr effect. The Bohr effect describes the reduction in oxygen affinity caused by the high carbon dioxide and low pH. So 2,3-BPG interacts with hemoglobin to promote oxygen delivery to unloading tissues alongside the Bohr effect. It does not reduce or inhibit this. So this is opposite to the effect. The binding of 2,3-BPG to hemoglobin lowers the affinity of the hemoglobin for oxygen. Yes, if a higher partial pressure of oxygen is required to achieve the same saturation, it means the hemoglobin is holding on to oxygen less tightly. So signifying a decreased affinity for oxygen, making it easier to unload. So this statement is also correct. According to this, the statement number 1 and 3 are correct. So C is the correct option of the question number 32. Now move towards the question number 33, and question number 33 is a person has a small hole in the septum between the ventricles. So this is called a ventroseptal defect. The person has no other heart defects. What is the direction of the net flow of the blood during ventricular systole in the heart of this person? So left ventricle to left atrium. First of all, the pressure difference will be during ventricular systole, both ventricles contact simultaneously. However, the muscular wall of the left ventricle is much thicker than the right of the right ventricle, allowing it to generate significantly higher pressure to pump blood throughout the systemic circulation. So flow direction will be blood naturally flows along a pressure gradient from an area of higher pressure to an area of lower pressure. So because the pressure in the left ventricle is vastly higher than the pressure in the right ventricle during contraction, so the blood will force its way through the defect from the left ventricle to the right ventricle. So this hole is between the ventricles. So there is no role of atrium over here. Again, no role of atrium. So left ventricle to right ventricle. Yes, right ventricle to left ventricle. It will, as I have described, there will be higher pressure in left ventricle, so the blood will flow from the higher pressure towards the lower pressure. So the blood will flow from left ventricle to right ventricle. So C is the correct option. Now 34 MCQ. The diagram shows a transfer section through a human bronchus, which labeled tissue is the cartilage. So if we see the cross section of a bronchus, cartilage appears as large, distinct, curved blocks or plates located on the outermost layer of the bronchial wall. So its role is to support airways and prevent it from collapsing. So clearly, we can see that the D is the that which will hold it up, which will not help it to collapse. So options can be, first of all, A is the represents the inner lining of the, this is the ciliated epithelium, which is the innermost here. Then next is the smooth muscle layer. You can see the shape of the muscles. So these are the smooth muscle layer, or we can say the elastic fibers. And C is why it is bronchial glands. It is some mucosa, you can say also as well. So D is the cartilage. So D is the correct option. Now question number 35 is there. What helps to maintain a concentration gradient between blood and the air in the alveolus? Well, how the maintenance of the gradient takes place, and how do the role of the blood flow takes place. First of all, for continuous passive diffusion of gases across the respiratory membrane, a steep concentration gradient must be actively maintained. You know that. So as oxygen diffuses from the alveoli into the capillary blood, the newly oxygenated blood is rapidly moved away by the continuous flow of blood through the pulmonary capillaries, being replaced by the oxygenated blood. So this constant replacement ensures that the oxygen concentration in the capillary blood entering the alveoli remains constantly lower than the air in the alveoli. So ventilation breathing replaces the air in the alveoli to keep oxygen levels high. So uh, we can say that the flow of blood through the lungs is maintained. This is the correct option. So then the presence of hemoglobin in blood cells, this is not correct, because hemoglobin helps carry the oxygen but does not define the physical renewal of the gradient like circulation does. So this is not. The single celled alveolar wall, and this it describes structural adaptations that reduces the distance for diffusion, but they do not actively maintain the concentration gradient itself. Again, this is both of they are not correct, as both of they are the structural adaptations that reduces the distance for diffusion. So only A is the correct option, and this is the flow of blood through the lungs, which maintains our concentration gradient between blood and the air in the alveoli. Now move towards the question number 36. And question number 36 is, which row correctly identifies the pathogens causing malaria and TB? The malaria is caused by Plasmodium, uh, which belongs to the kingdom Protoctista. So they are not prokaryotes. So these are the not the correct options. And then TB is caused by bacterium, not by virus. So B is the correct option. Tuberculosis, mycobacterium. Tuberculosis is a bacteria which cause the TB. So B is the correct option, which could be used to help prevent an outbreak of cholera in the town. So, students, that cholera is a waterborne disease caused by the bacterium Vibrio cholera, which spreads through contaminated food or contaminated water with fecal matter. So, the treatment of sewage waste directly disrupts this transmission cycle by ensuring that water supplies do not become contaminated with the pathogen. So, the first option can be the correct option. So B, spraying still water will kill mosquito larvae. It will kill mosquito larvae. It will not help to prevent the outbreak of cholera. C, increased use of antiviral medicine. So this is the bacteria, not the virus. And D, preventing the reuse of no. So again, this is the meant for transfusion, but it will not help to prevent an outbreak of cholera in the town. So only the treatment of sewage waste will help. Now the question number 38 is there, and question number 38 is the graph shows the percentage of tuberculosis patients who were also known to be infected with HIV from 2004 to 2011. So you can see the region P and then global region and the regions outside region P. So four statements have been given over here. From 2004 to 2010, the percentage of TB patients with HIV infection in region P increased from 3 to 69%. In 2004 to 69% is increased. So this statement is incorrect because in 2004 the value starts at around 4%. So this is not 3%. So in 2010 the value is at 62. You can see the value is over here. So again this is not the correct option. Then the second statement is from 2005 to 2011. So 2005 to 2011, the percentage of TB patients with HIV infection increased more rapidly in region P than in region outside region P. So this statement is correct. You can see that the rate has increased from C from 2006 to 2011, 2006 to 2011. The percentage of TB patients with infection regions outside doubled. So in 2006, the line into the line in 2006, you can see it is about 8, and in 2011 it is more than doubled. So it is more than doubled, so this is not the correct option. From 2007 to 2011, the percentage of TB patients with HIV infection globally increased from 20 to 30%. From 7 to 2011, globally 20 to 30%. So it is more than 30%. Again, this is not the correct option. So B is the correct option. Question number 39, and question number 39 is there. 4 different treatments were tested in a human volunteer during a year. One of these treatments was a vaccine. The treatments were injected into the volunteer and blood samples were taken after 2 weeks. The samples were analyzed to obtain a cell count for 4 types of cell. The results are shown in the table. Which statement was the vaccine? Assume the volunteer baseline blood cell count was the same before each treatment. So cell count per cell and the monocytes, neutrophils, plasma cells, and macrophages. So we have to find out. So the principle which we discuss over here, the vaccines mimic a primary infection by introducing harmless antigens. So this triggers a specific adaptive immune response. So a key feature of the primary immune response is clonal selection and expansion of specific B lymphocytes, which differentiate into plasma cells to produce antibodies. So while phagocytes or neutrophils, monocytes, and macrophages will be involved in the initial non-specific response, a significant, lasting, and unique marker of an active immune response to a vaccine after 2 weeks is an elevated count of plasma cells. So highest amount of plasma cells are these. So this is the highest amount of plasma cells. So compared to the other treatments, so which are 220, 240, and 230. So statement B shows an elevated monocyte count 500. So this is, it cannot happen. So monocyte count, and then in C, you can see the neutrophils count is high. So shows macrophagy high. So there should be the count of plasma cells should be high. So according to this, A is the correct option. Question number 40 is, a bacterial pathogen produces a protein that acts as a toxin. The toxin is harmful to humans. People can be vaccinated to protect them from the effects of this pathogen. Which statement describes the sequence of events that occur in a vaccinated person to protect them from the effects of this pathogen? So mammary cells divide by mitosis and then differentiate into macrophages, and that engulf and digest the toxin. Well, here in this case, in question, this is the incorrect Memory cells do not differentiate into macrophages. They develop, macrophages develop from monocytes. So this statement is not correct. Then statement B, memory cells divide by mitosis and they differentiate into plasma cells that produce antibodies to bind to the toxin. Yes. Macrophages divide by mitosis and then differentiate into memory cells that engulf and digest the toxin. Macrophages are the phagocytes. They do not divide by mitosis to differentiate into memory cells during this response. So this statement is also incorrect. Then the last D, plasma cells divide by mitosis and then differentiate into memory cells that produces antibodies to bind to the toxin. Plasma cells are fully differentiated and cells. They do not divide and differentiate into memory cells. So according to this, B is the only statement which is correct. So B is the correct option. Well, students, it was all about this paper. Please like, share, and subscribe my channel, and please ask other students to subscribe my channel to watch or to get more videos or to get more notifications on the upcoming videos. Thanks for watching.